Howdy, folks. Today I'd like to talk to you about an investigation into injured workers in Australia and the United States as well. I'd like to present the facts to you and then allow you to draw your conclusions as to what the solution may be.
They've treated me like a leper. They've ostracised me, left me out in the wilderness to rot.
I'm not asking for a diamond ring or a new car. I'm asking for treatment.
The decisions that I've seen in our investigations, some of them are downright immoral and unethical.
The shocking practices behind Australia's workers' compensation.
When you hear the word I care, what do you think?
I cringe. They don't care. They just don't care.
All these people have their snout in the trough. It's a disaster.
Four Corners, Monday, ABC and iView.
Staying both on the job and healthy may be as vital as ever as a new investigation shows workers' compensation benefits nationwide have been cut. The moves benefit employers and insurance companies that are supposed to cover hurt workers. ProPublica and NPR conducted the joint investigation. The outlets published identical articles Wednesday morning, along with a state-by-state breakdown profiling the cuts over the past 13 years. Here are some of the investigation's key findings. Since 2003, lawmakers in 33 states have passed new laws reducing workers' comp benefits or making them tougher for employees to access. Each state varies significantly on how much you can receive, so where you get hurt matters. Many states cut off benefits after an arbitrary time limit instead of when the worker is recovered, and employers and insurance companies now have more control over medical decisions. The report was especially critical of states like Florida, which has reduced workers' comp benefits by 65% over the past 2 decades. In California, insurers can use the opinions of doctors who never actually saw a patient to reopen old cases and deny medical care. Independent medical reviewers in that state denied the recommendation of workers' doctors in 91% of cases.
Yeah, everyone thinks that workers' comp is so expensive. But in fact, we looked at the numbers and we found that employers are actually paying the lowest cost for workers' compensation insurance since the 1970s. And insurers are doing fairly well, too. In 2013, they had an 18% profit, their best year since the 1990s.
In another case highlighted Wednesday morning, ProPublica and NPR pointed out a worker who loses an arm on the job in Alabama is only entitled to a maximum of $48,000 in compensation. Just across the border in Georgia, a worker could get almost $700,000 more over his or her lifetime. ProPublica and NPR say the investigation took up much of the last year for the outlet's 2 reporters, Michael Grable and Howard Burkus. For Newsy, I'm Cliff Judy.
Compensation benefits have long played a critical role in the American labor market. Simply put, businesses pay insurance for claims if a worker is injured on the job. The employee gives up the right to sue, but the employer pays medical costs and part of the wages while the worker recovers. But a new investigation by ProPublica and NPR finds workers' comp is being substantially eroded. Over the past couple decades, legislators in more than 30 states have passed laws reducing benefits or making it more difficult in many cases to qualify for them. States have also cut off benefits after arbitrary
is giving a voice to the voiceless and taking the powerful to task. Now, 8 on Your Side investigates.
It happened in a second. An injury on the job changed his life forever. Now an insurance company driven by profits decides who will treat him and how. More than 250,000 Florida workers will suffer injuries on the job this year, and some of them severe.
If you're one of them, you are at the mercy of your employer's workers' comp insurance carrier. And on Your Side, senior investigative reporter Steve Andrews tells us your care depends on what that insurance company will actually approve.
Yeah, it can happen this quickly. A serious accident at work. Insurance companies call the shots about your medical care, and what one company is putting a Lakeland man and his family through adds insult after injury.
It was the loudest noise I've ever heard.
September 2017, a chemical explosion at Natural Advantage Food Flavorings in Lakeland knocks down walls, collapses ceilings. The blast blows a hole through the roof. Witnesses say flames shot 60 feet into the air. The explosion injures 3.
It was a lot of pain, and there was just fire, smoke, just chaos. You think you're okay until you actually have to talk about it.
Fire and chemicals scorch employee Neil Eckelberger. Paramedics rush Neil to Tampa General's burn unit. When wife Robin arrives, she's not allowed to see him.
My fear was, if he dies, am I going to get to tell him goodbye?
Doctors finally let her back.
I could tell he had been blown up. I mean, there's one doctor on this side with one arm up, one doctor on this side, and they're just ripping skin off.
And I remember them, having to physically pull the skin off of my arms and my neck and my ears.
Fire left Neil with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. Chemicals caused blistering under his arms, down his back, legs, and thighs. Doctors surgically implant pig skin on his arms. One is successful, the other isn't.
That's it, done, done. Deep breath, deep breath, deep breath.
Twice a day, he undergoes painful debridement, removing dead skin.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay.
His attorney is Michael Weiner.
Neil's got burn injuries, neurological injuries, psychological injuries, orthopedic injuries.
The care that he got at Tampa General was amazing.
When Neil came home, Travelers, his employer's workers' comp insurance carrier, provided a much different level of assistance. It started with the home health care nurse Travelers sent to treat Neil's burns.
The nurse that showed up to take care of Mr. Eckelberger was completely unqualified to deal with significant burns.
Because I was having to wear masks. The kids to go into the room, mask and gloves.
Because I still had open burn wounds.
She came over here with hand sanitizer.
TGH referred Neil to several specialists for follow-up. According to Robin, Travelers denied the referrals, claiming those doctors are not in its network. Travelers doesn't belong to a network.
So I found the statements that they made to him and to his wife to be disingenuous, to call it mildly, if not a blatant outright lie.
In Florida, workers' comp insurance carriers like Travelers decide who injured workers will see, where they will see them.
They wanted me to take him laying down to a walk-in clinic.
I don't have any control of my health. I don't have any control of the doctors I see.
Neil also needed stitches removed. It took Travelers 10 weeks to provide a doctor.
Travelers has no heart.
According to Michael Weiner, insurance carriers run the show, provide medical care on the cheap, frustrating patients in an effort to push them into using their own private health care insurance.
Steve, the inmates run the asylum. There really is no governing body that exists to hold insurance companies accountable.
Now, according to Travelers, it does or is part of a network, and the selection of a treating doctor is made from its network of providers after careful consideration of multiple factors, including their expertise.
I mean, watching the video of him getting that treatment done to his arms, it's hard to watch. Clearly, he is seriously hurt. How in the world does he end up getting sent to a doc in the box?
Well, according to Travelers, it said that not all doctors accept workers' compensation cases, and many only do at walk-in clinics. The company also claims its goal is to ensure that each injured employee receives the best care available so they can recover quickly and return to work. Now, another goal, profit. In January, Travelers told stockholders it was very pleased with the strong performance of its workers' compensation product. It helped the company beat profit estimates. So there's money to be made, but the question is, I mean, I'm sure the Eckelbergers would be saying at whose expense are you making this profit, you know?
At least they have the hand sanitizer. That should make everyone
That
feel
story
better.
is unreal.
Like insult to injury and after injury both. Thank you, Steve. If you have a problem you want Steve to investigate, give him a call. The 8 on Your Side helpline is 1-800-338-0808.
Steve Andrews is giving a voice to the voiceless and taking the powerful to task. Now, a Target 8 investigation.
He didn't want to die. He just didn't want to suffer anymore.
Her brother, a Tampa firefighter, suffered in silence, and then the unthinkable happened. Firefighters and other first responders rushed to help the victims of every imaginable tragedy and accident. For many, the horrific images stay with them.
And over time, that can, of course, impact their mental health. Some turn to drugs or alcohol to numb the stress and the pain. And Target 8 senior investigator Steve Andrews found others take it a fatal step further.
Yeah, and the suicide rate for firefighters is on the rise. And in Tampa, we lost one as recently as September. In Florida, if a firefighter is physically injured on the job, workers' comp will pay for treatment and therapy. Not so for a mental health injury. These were the light moments for former Tampa firefighter Steve Ledoux on the dance floor with his mom. Many dark moments on his job left him hurting.
We never, ever in a million years thought we would lose our brother to suicide.
According to Steve's sister Megan, 29 years of burned bodies, murdered children, horrific traffic accidents took a toll.
He became dependent on alcohol and this almost like self-destructive behavior.
Steve Ledoux's stress became so crippling, fire rescue put him on leave. In Florida, workers' comp doesn't cover mental health injuries first responders develop due to their jobs. Steve had to repay the city for the time he was off.
And then this put him into a deeper depression.
We have the responsibility to take care of them mentally as well as we do physically.
Palm Beach State Representative Matt Wilhite, a firefighter paramedic, knows change is necessary. An FSU study shows that of more than 1,000 firefighters surveyed, 47% had suicidal thoughts. 19% actually made plans. 15% attempted it.
We would like workers' comp to recognize that a non-physical injury is just as devastating and needs just as much treatment and therapy as a physical injury.
Megan remembers, toward the end, her brother struggled to get out of bed.
I looked at him and I said, Stevie, are you going to do anything to hurt yourself? Do I need to worry about you? And he said, Megan, I would never do that.
2 weeks later,
it was the middle of the night, and I got a phone call from my parents that they were on their way to my brother's home because he had killed himself. I know he's regretting what he did. And he didn't want to die. He just didn't want to suffer anymore.
The suffering is over for Steve Ledoux, but for many other first responders, it continues.
Work is something that could happen to pretty much anybody.
But for some, the struggle that follows to heal and deal with workers' comp nightmares only adds insult to injury on the job.
Tonight, one man shares his story of being hurt and feeling hopeless with our Andre Isom.
We all know insurance companies can be very necessary, but depending on your past experience with them, some people would call them evil. A Michigan man is in the middle of a big legal mess with his workers' comp insurance company, and sadly, his health hangs in the balance.
I just want to go to sleep and not wake up. Make it easier on everybody.
It's very sad. That's not Mark.
You forget sometimes? Why do you forget sometimes, Mark? I don't know. It's okay, sir. It's okay. 55-year-old Mark Maruza is not the man he wants to be. And he's not the man he used to be.
Mark was a good man. Good man. Fun. Lots of friends. Hard worker.
I like my job.
His job as a truck driver. Mark was also a volunteer firefighter, an avid hunter, and he loved to ride with the wind. Until the day his life, as he knew it, changed.
I just remember getting halfway across the street.
He was at work. He parked his big truck.
I remember it was a silver car, and that's it.
Mark was hit by a car.
Mark was hurt. Bad. His girlfriend tells us he barely gets around. Nancy Gusva is Mark's partner in life, caregiver, and provider.
Constant. It doesn't stop. Day and night.
Mark Maruza was brain damaged as a result of this accident.
So Mark can be unpredictable.
He pulled out a gun, and not once.
Mark was injured almost 6 years ago. His workers' compensation insurance company had been covering Mark's care until
They refused to pay for the medications.
Attorney Marshall Lasser says medical reports from physicians were rejected, citing Mark's condition was not as severe as it once was.
We lost our case manager, our aid service. Everything's been put back on me.
Nancy says she put her own health on hold. How hard is this on you?
Hard. Very hard. It's my life too that's gone.
The only way they knew to try and get it back was to sue. And they won. But Nancy and Mark don't feel any form of victory because they say they have yet to receive the money the court ordered.
There is no punishment when insurance companies commit fraud, ignore the magistrate's orders, as they have in this case.
All we get is no, no, no.
The insurance company issued a statement. We have paid and continue to pay all benefits to which Mr. Maruza is entitled under the law, and we remain in full compliance with the decision of the Workers' Compensation Magistrate. Mr. Maruza has filed a claim seeking additional benefits, and we cannot comment on pending litigation.
The deck is stacked against people who have been injured in the workplace, and we need to change that.
Michigan State Rep Tim Greimel is outraged and is requesting the drafting of new legislation in Lansing. Legislation, he says, with teeth.
If it becomes a contested case, that there be a truly independent doctor who has to weigh in and take a look at the claim, a doctor that's agreed to by both parties.
Do the right thing. Let the man live out his life. Get him the service he needs.
For Mark, Nancy, and their attorney, this is far from over. They plan to fight this case in court until they say justice is finally served. If you are dealing with this issue, they ask that you reach out to your legislator and make your voices heard. I'm Andrea Isom, 7 Action News.
Andrea, thank you so much.
Tonight, a dramatic result from the King 5 investigation, School of Broken Promises.
The State Department of Labor and Industries is now forbidding any more injured workers to attend Office Careers, the unaccredited online school at the center of our investigation. Susanna Frame joining us with a new twist in this, Susanna.
That's right, Joyce and Mark. Because of our investigation, LNI has put a moratorium on retraining injured workers at the school until further notice. But tonight, advocates and injured workers are asking, why did it take so long? We found for years warnings about Office Careers rolled in, yet officials at LNI looked the other way.
Receptionist, veterinarian front office, file clerk and courier, cashier, security guard.
Angela LeClaire of Longview is no quitter.
Data entry clerks, phone customer service.
Since earning the certificate from Office Careers showing she successfully completed their training, she spent 9 months applying for any office-type job she could find.
Customer service representative, medical receptionist.
It wasn't just 10, 20, or even 50 applications.
103.
That's right, 103 applications, with only these 7 letters to show for it.
Saying thank you, but no thank you, and good luck on your job search.
LeClaire worked at Longview Fiber for 16 years until she injured her neck in a fall. She's had 2 surgeries and can't go back to her old job. So the state paid her tuition to get retrained here at Office Careers based in Renton, the spot that's gotten millions of public dollars, more than any other school in the entire state.
I did not gain the skills to have that job.
LeClaire says despite language on the certificate, the program was anything but successful.
I told them I'm computer illiterate.
The King 5 investigators have found dozens of injured workers with dismal, life-altering outcomes after graduation. They get a certificate, but no skills, no job, and then no more benefits from the state. The stress was so daunting, Angela LeClaire considered taking her own life.
At one point in time, I wanted to die because it's hard when you work so hard to earn a living and try to have a decent life and then have it all taken from you.
And did this program make it worse?
Yes. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know computers. I'm like, how am I going to do this?
The instructor is able to demonstrate what to do.
The school's owner, David Jordan, says he offers a quality program, and he hasn't received any complaints.
We have no reason to believe that we're defrauding anybody or not doing a great job. So if there's a problem, we're not hearing about it.
The state's definitely heard about it. LNI's own expert authored this 2017 study saying the school shows little to no evidence of using best practices. It's a problem that doesn't work well for student success.
It's extremely frustrating
Catherine Mason is one of dozens of attorneys representing injured workers who've complained to LNI. She wrote this letter about her client, Diana O'Halloran, in 2008, 12 years ago, saying with the shabby office careers training, it's ludicrous to think she could get a job as an office clerk, and urged the state to take some time to look into office careers.
The state of Washington knows. They know. For years. For years and years and years.
And for the last 6 years, judges across the state have repeatedly ruled office careers is harming, not helping disabled workers. A Spokane County judge found Rachel Jones learned next to nothing at the school. He blasted the system, saying one easily might infer that this whole vocational plan was an LNI ruse to rid itself of a troublesome injured worker.
Is office careers just an easy way to cut people off from their benefits?
Absolutely not true from my perspective.
Rich Wilson oversees the worker retraining program at LNI. He admits to hearing about problems and says they have taken action.
And most recently, we initiated an audit of the school.
That's great you're doing an audit now, but some people might say, what took you so long?
Yeah, and I'm not happy about that. Things don't always move quickly with state government.
The state hasn't moved quickly with this either, following state law. There's one on the books saying LNI can only use schools where 50% of students get jobs after graduation. Office Careers doesn't produce any job placement information.
Unbelievable to me.
Senator Karen Kaiser is the chair of the Senate Labor and Commerce Committee.
Is it acceptable that LNI isn't following?
Of course not.
Their own policy?
Of course not. We have to figure out where have things gone sideways here. What's the reason? What's the excuse? Let's fix it.
So the big news tonight, LNI says they will not approve any more retraining at Office Careers until they get to the bottom of what's going on, either through the audit that the state LNI official talked about there in the report, or when the licensing agency finishes their investigation. They say that could take up to 6 months.
All right, keep us posted. Thank you.
And we'll let you know. For more information, just text the keyword careers to 206-448-4545. We will send you a direct link to all of the stories related to this.
So as an injured worker and work comp whistleblower in the state of Washington, I'm puzzled by my state Senator Kaiser. And I'm puzzled, and I want to know, and my question for these lawmakers is it going to take another decade for the truth that Washington State is one of 33 other states that are failing our injured workers, and that we need minimum federal oversight for our injured workers? Will it take another decade for that truth to be told? Why? The question isn't just why did it take a decade for the truth about this vocational school harming injured workers take a decade. The next question we need to be asking the lawmakers of Washington State and across America is what about the minimum federal oversight we need, and is it going to take a decade to get that? Because we've been waiting for a very long time for that as the injured workers in America. Actually, since 1972, we have needed it, and we have been pushed to the side, our issue, for over 50 years now. And part of the reason is we have legislators like State Senator Kaiser. When I beg of her help, she basically tried to call the cops on me, and here's the proof of that. I like to deal in facts. Howdy folks, Darren Ray Fonso here. We're talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington. Today's topic is going to be Senator Karen Kaiser, who seems to want to brag about our state work comp rates lowering just a little smidgen. And the only reason those are lowering is because it's on the backs of injured workers who aren't being treated. And so I'm going to talk to Karen Kaiser about that and see what she has to say. Seven, 8, 6, 7, 6, 6, 4.
Thank you for contacting Senator Kaiser's office. This is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. I would like to leave a message for the senator, if I may.
Sir, Your message yesterday was received and had been reported to security. Thank you for calling.
Oh, I'm recording this, by the way. Is that all you got to say? That you're reporting me? Hello? Hello? Howdy, folks. Darren Ray Fonso here, talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington. Today's topic is how I've reached out to a progressive journalist named Randy Rhodes to speak up for the injured workers of America, and she intently fails to do so. I keep trying to approach her nicely, and she doesn't want to help. Then I try to be a jerk about it, and then she gets all pissy. Anyways, we're going to give her a call and see why it is she don't want to stand up and represent the injured workers of America with the needed minimum federal oversight. As she's calling out whistleblowers at this point and saying we need to listen to the whistleblowers, but she doesn't want to listen to America's work comp whistleblowers.
Calling to the Rhodes Show.
Yeah, I'm trying to call in and talk to Randy Rhodes.
Oh, you got us. You found us. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
That's beautiful. What's your name?
Darren?
Darren. Where are you calling from, sir?
Washington State.
All right. What do you want to speak about today?
I'd like to talk about workers' compensation whistleblowers and the failure of the liberal left to put on the table the minimum federal standards that Senator Sanders and Patty Murray and Tom Perez all told us we needed in a letter to OSHA and the to the Department of Labor 4 years ago. So for 4 years, American injured workers have been failed by the liberal left. I'd like to know why.
All right. And you said your name was Darren?
Yes.
Got it. All right. Hold on.
All right, thanks.
He says, prepare to die, and then he says he's going to take his dog Bianca away from him. All right, Darren in Washington.
Yeah, hi. I was wanting to ask you some questions. I'm all for whistleblowers, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, so you supporting whistleblowers, that rocks. But when it comes to work comp whistleblowers asking for minimum federal oversight that Senator Sanders and Patty Murray and Tom Perez told us injured workers we need, my liberal left seems to be running from me on that issue. Could you please tell me why?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you?
Yeah, I'm talking about minimum federal oversight for injured workers and work comp whistleblowers, ma'am.
Work comp whistleblowers? Can I have a name of somebody that you'd like me to look up?
Darren Fonso. I'm talking to you, ma'am. I'm a work comp pensioner out of the state of Washington who went through work comp hell.
Yeah, but which whistleblower should I look up to see the story?
Which whistleblower? I'm blowing the whistle right now to you, ma'am. Hello? There you go.
Welcome back. Tom Hartman here with you, and it's Anything Goes Friday. Darren in Everett, Washington, watching us on Facebook Live. Hey, Darren, what's up?
Hey, I want to talk about a war on injured workers and how it's adding to homelessness and inequality here in America. That back in 2015, OSHA and Senator Sanders and NPR all told us, and the U.S. Department of Labor with Tom Perez all come out and told us we need some minimum federal standards over these broken state work comp systems. Yet 3 years later, the left is silent, and I'm begging for help here as an injured worker in the state of Washington who has been abused and harmed. Yet I have our revolution not wanting to put this issue and Senator Sanders' solutions on the table. And I would like to know why the left basically is failing us at this time.
I don't know the answer to your question, Darren, and I'm sorry to hear about your circumstances. I hope you get through it. I'm sorry, I don't know. Paul in Sparta, Wisconsin. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Thanks for.
Coming to you live from the UCOM Media Studios. It's UCOM Live with Chris LaGrange. Talk news that works from the people who go to work. The fastest growing podcast on, in, and around the internet. News, progress, and workplace politics. Now here's your host, Chris LaGrange.
So, protesters got locked up in New York State Capitol. Housing costs are their concern. Plus, get ready for the bloodiest job action ever, according to this guy named John. West Virginia is trying to take away educators' right to strike. Will their governor let them?
Real name? Giving him the cold shoulder.
Jimmy, how you doing?
What's his real name for all of Chris's West Virginia fans? So
It's
gotta get that out there.
Jim Justice.
Can we get a phone set up here? so
Jim
Chris and I can
Justice?
see each other?
Yeah.
Moron.
This guy's name is Jim Justice, and he's going to sign a bill that takes away workers' rights. That's how apropos is that?
We don't know this.
Jim Justice.
His name's not Jim Justice, is it really?
It's Jim No Justice if he signs that bill.
He is a bad, bad man.
Can we do a break? I've been asking for it forever.
Jim Justice, do not sign that bill.
All right, when we come back, and what else?
And
anyone else other than Donnie? Donnie, don't you have a job to do? I mean, Dennis?
we have one more from our friend Darren, but I just lost it. So
Oh, boy.
Give me a second.
All right. No, it's okay.
Son of a bitch!
We have too much of that guy. Our first whack packer.
He's awesome.
I know he's awesome.
Yeah, he was just saying that
oh, boy.
It's perfectly fine. He just had an injured worker tell him that she asked Jim Justice to help out some injured workers. Of course, he did not reply back.
Of course not, because he's a fence sitter, Darren, and these people got to be held accountable for their actions, period.
And you should
If they're not going to get off the fence, then they got to get out of the office.
So...
Hi, folks. Darren Ray Fonso here, talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries, as we call it here in the state of Washington, and my quest to get the minimum federal oversight on the table for the injured workers of America that Senator Sanders and Patty Murray and Tom Perez all told us we needed as of 4 years ago. So here's my shout out and call to Senator Rick Larson, or I'm sorry, Representative Rick Larson, U.S. Representative Rick Larson, who's my person in Congress who I'm supposed to contact to if I want to, you know, get help for the injured workers of America. So let's try it. 1-202-225-2605.
Representative Larson's office. This is Fair speaking. How can I help you?
Yeah, I'm calling to find out. I want to leave some information for the congressman.
Sure.
I'm a constituent of his from Washington State, and I'm an injured worker, and I want to know why he has failed over the last 4 or 5 years to put the minimum federal oversight for injured workers on the table that Senator Sanders, Patty Murray, and Tom Perez all told us in a letter to the U.S. Department of OSHA and Labor that we needed. So I'm wondering why, as an injured worker and a work comp victim in the state of Washington and America today, why isn't Representative Rick Larson putting our minimum federal oversight for injured workers on the table?
Right. I'll make sure to pass that along to the congressman. Could I just get your name and address real quick?
Sure. It's Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, Fonso, F-O-N-Z-S-E-A-U.
And your address?
And now I'll share the call with you to our United Steelworkers Union Local 12-591. This is my call out to the local steelworkers who are endorsing and telling me to vote for Representative Rick Larson, who intently fails to represent the injured workers with the needed minimum federal oversight that would stop a class war, not only on the injured workers in Washington State, but across America. So let's see what my union brothers and sisters have to say.
This is the United Steelworkers, Local 12-591. We are unable to take your call at this time. Please leave a message.
Yeah, my name is Darren Ray Fonseau, Fonzseau. You may want to Google me. I'm an injured worker from the state of Washington, and I would like to know why you are telling me and endorsing U.S. congressional candidate Rick Larsen, who has intently failed injured workers for the last 4 years, when he intently fails to fight for the minimum federal oversight that Senator Sanders, Tom Perez, and Patty Murray all told OSHA and Departments of Labor we needed in a letter 4 years ago. So why are our union brothers and sisters telling me to vote for a man who kills injured workers intently with his arrogance, with his elite arrogance? Why are fellow union members failing to represent and step up and represent the injured workers with our needed minimum federal oversight? This is a failure of not just the Dem Party, but of our unions, who are intently stabbing injured workers in the back, arrogantly, with no will or way to fight for the injured workers' needed minimum federal oversight. So I'd like to know why you are asking injured workers of America and Washington State to vote for Senator Rick Larsen instead of calling him out on the needed minimum federal oversight for injured workers before you give him or any other candidate your endorsements, like Tajma Sawant or any of these other people, or our state lawmakers like Elias and Senator Chase, Marilyn Chase. I'd like to know why our whole liberal left here is failing to step up and represent the injured workers of America with the minimum federal oversight that Patty Murray told us we need. Yeah, I'd like to know. And I'm going to share this with the injured workers of America online and across America, how I have sought out help from the United Steelworkers Local 591 here, 12591 here in Everett, Washington, and how they failed to want to stand, or Bellingham, wherever they are, how they intently failed to want to represent the injured workers of America with the needed minimum federal oversight that we need to stop a class war on injured workers that apparently this union and Rick Larsen don't want to talk about.
Send your message now. Press pound. To mark the message urgent, press 4. To hear your message, press 5. Message marked urgent. To send your message now, press pound. To remove message...
Fonso here, talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington. Today's topic is politics, once again, and workers' comp. And the issue is going to be Medicare for all, and whether or not the injured workers of America are going to be included or excluded under the new Medicare for all laws. So I am calling Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. So let's see if we can get a hold of her first, or someone from her office at least. Speaker. Okay.
Office.
Hi, I'm calling with a question about Medicare for all that I was wondering if you might be able to answer for me. Hello? Hello? Well, we'll try one more time. I don't know what happened. Call back. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm calling about, I have a question about Medicare for all, and I was wondering if you'd be able to answer it for me.
I can try.
Well, the question is that it says nobody will be left behind, but I'm a little worried if our injured workers in America will be left behind or not. Because there's like a section 801 that says it will prohibit of employee benefits, and so that's why I'm wondering about section 801 of this new law that's coming out. Do you know anything about that, or does Pramila Jayapal know if injured workers will be excluded or included or excluded in this new law?
Let me take a look at the materials, and I will try to answer that.
Okay. It's section 801.
Yeah, I know. I just have to find the.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Yeah, someone just showed me it, and that's why I was calling to find out, because yeah, it'd be interesting to know if we will be covered or not, because we're being told nobody's going to be left behind. Yet in Canada, the injured workers got left behind up there, and so that's why it'd be interesting to find out if we're leaving our people behind down here too or not. As an injured worker, I'm speaking as an injured worker.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
And maybe you know some other section that I don't know, or this other person doesn't know of, that says we are covered, you know?
Well, so I don't know the circumstances for Canada. I'm not finding the answer immediately, like looking at the summary. The intention is that Medicare for All would replace existing insurance.
Right, but it's the same Sanders bill.
So this is from Darren. Darren's very passionate about this, and I think I've simplified his basic question, but it really stems about how we are letting down our injured workers. And she's wondering, do you support Senator Sanders' call for federal oversight of state work comp systems? Feels like we are really letting our injured workers down in California, and wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, so, you know, in California, we have a lot of issues that I think that most people just keep saying they're state issues. But I think at the federal level, there is always something that we can do. And that is always done by incentives, right? You know, here in California, I used to work in construction, and I used to see how workman's comp used to work. In fact, my boyfriend, he's actually one of the people who was injured here in California. And after you meet a certain amount of days, you're kicked off the program. So you either have to, you're rushed to either settle with the company that you were hurt with. And the deals aren't really there. And there's really no support at the state level to guide you through the process. And so there's really no oversight. I mean, so a lot of these companies are getting away with really murder. They're paying out people for fractures to their spine, you know, at $10,000, $17,000, when they know that the lifelong care is going to be well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's just one of the reasons why I support Medicare expansion for all, so that people are not stuck with these enormous bills that they're going to have to fork out of nowhere. I mean, the amount that people are being charged for doctor visits and follow-ups are absurd, and no one can afford them. So it just leaves more room for more injuries in the future. And I believe that we can have some real progress if the federal decides to have oversight at every state. And I'm telling you that because California has higher standards than other states. So I can't imagine what's happening in other states.
Yeah.
Wow.
The U.S. Industrial Revolution came to age on the backs of unpaid workers toiling in sweatshops as much as 18 hours per day. Workers were exposed to dangerous work environments that frequently resulted in death and injury. Safety for these workers was nearly non-existent. It has been estimated that 1 out of every 50 workers was killed or seriously disabled from industrial accidents each year. These injured workers and their family members received little, if any, compensation. At the urging of President Roosevelt, the federal government took the lead and passed the first Workmen's Compensation Law in 1908, the Federal Employers' Liability Act, that provided compensation to government workers suffering from on-the-job injuries. Around the same time, a few states also experimented and passed early workmen's compensation laws. However, all their laws were struck down as unconstitutional violations of due process. For example, the New York Court of Appeals declared the state's required workers' compensation law unconstitutional. On March 25, 1911, a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Company in New York City claimed the lives of 146 young garment workers. Factory managers had locked emergency exits in an effort to prevent employees from taking unauthorized breaks or stealing. Most of the victims were women and died of burns, asphyxiation, or blunt impact as they leaped from the building trying to escape the fire. The tragic event occurred the day after the New York Court of Appeals declared state workers' comp laws unconstitutional. This horrific event led to legislation requiring improved factory safety standards and also served as a major catalyst that brought attention to the plight of the injured workers. Wisconsin, followed by 9 other states, adopted the first statewide constitutional workers' compensation law. All states within the Union had created various degrees of compensation protection to injured workers by 1949. These laws, however, were a double-edged victory. Workers and their families surrendered their right to sue their employer for work-related injuries and death in exchange for employers' agreement to provide reliable and prompt compensation. This give and take compromise between labor and industry has been labeled as the Great Trade-off. After this flurry of state legislative activity, little progress was made to improve workers' compensation benefits nationwide. On December 29, 1970, President Richard Nixon signed the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, which gave the federal government authority to set safety and health standards for most of the country's federal workers. OSHA also established a bipartisan commission to look into state workers' compensation laws. In 1972, the Commission produced a unanimous critical report on state workmen's comp laws, stating, "The inescapable conclusion is that state workmen's compensation laws in general are inadequate and inequitable." The National Commission made 84 recommendations in an effort to further 5 main goals. 1. Broad coverage of employees and of work-related injuries and diseases. 2. Substantial protection against interruption of income. 3. Sufficient medical care and rehabilitation services. 4. Encouragement of safety. And 5. An effective system for delivery of benefits and services. The Commission's recommendations played a significant role towards improving state workers' compensation laws. However, the progression did not last. Professor Emeritus John Burton, chair of the National Commission and noted scholar on workers' compensation, is quoted as saying,
"In the aftermath of the National Commission's report, there were substantial changes in a number of state laws, improving these laws, but that improvement has come to a halt, and if anything, a decline."
The primary reason for this failure can be traced to the collective lobbying efforts of the insurance industry and large corporations. While employers' immunity remains protected, industry-backed legislation concentrates on lowering benefits, narrowing eligibility requirements, and putting medical treatment decisions in the hands of the insurance companies. Workers' compensation is now seen as a tool used for economic development, which pits one state against the other. This has spawned a race to the bottom with regressive reforms. What a pity it is that the Commission doesn't meet each decade. The trade-off wars between labor and industry that began in 1911 are alive and well in the 21st century. Big money interests, with their vast financial resources, continue to create economic and legal obstacles that workers have to struggle against to be fairly compensated for workplace injuries. Workers deserve our protection and assurance that the promises made by industry in the Great Trade-off are honored. The evisceration of the Great Compromise will continue. 100 years later, we are truly at another crossroads in our national approach to workers' compensation. Advocates for injured workers and their families need to leverage our collective resources to ensure that large corporations are prevented from making hard-working Americans second-class citizens dependent on government welfare programs. The price that the victims of the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire paid at the hands of corporate greed and lack of accountability should not be repeated, not now, nor ever.
In the last 10 minutes, nearly 500 Americans became disabled. Right now, 54 million people in America are living with disabilities. Most of these injuries happen in the working years, when people need to be healthy to provide for their families. And not everyone who gets injured survives. Over 4,600 Americans are killed on the job each year. American troops who earn their living serving our country are greatly affected. 6,300 troops were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and 633,000 now suffer from a disability as a result of their service. Many people continue to live with the effects of their injury every day, as 116 million American adults live with chronic pain disorders. Disabled workers are the largest minority group in America. Anyone, at any time, could become the next unwitting member. But unfortunately, millions of disabled workers don't have access to the vital information, resources, and community support they need to make informed decisions during this critical time. When they reach out for help, they are often shunned by society or labeled as lazy. This is why we are here. The National Association of Injured and Disabled Workers gives a voice to the millions in need. We are a nationally recognized nonprofit standing up to fight for America's injured and disabled workers by providing resources, guidance, and financial aid to these victims and their families. NAIDW provides support assistance such as kids care, continuing child education scholarships, housing and medical assistance, veteran support, and a national discount prescription drug card that saves our members up to 85% on prescription medications at pharmacies across the country. All NAIDW members enjoy free access to an information-rich online community where they will find workshops, webinars, and forums, and have the ability to apply for grants and financial assistance or connect with dedicated professionals who are ready to help. Online tools like the Fund Me program allow members to create profiles and launch their own fundraising initiatives. American workers are injured every minute, left to face a harsh reality of disability in this country. But NAIDW is helping to create a new reality. We are building a community where injured and disabled workers can feel safe to ask for and receive the help they desperately need, with the professionals and organizations that are here and ready to help them. Visit www.naidw.org today.
Maybe you should look at it the other way, because the Workers' Compensation Act is supposed to be humanitarian and remedial. It's supposed to help injured workers. It's not supposed to help the Chamber of Commerce. So
You get injured at work. You want to get better. The boss wants you to get better. So Beatty is back. He has zealously been representing claimants and plaintiffs in both workers' compensation and personal injury matters with Beatty Sloan. Problem if I see the company doc. Or maybe it's not always.
Well, I mean, think about it. If you were sick or injured, would you want somebody dictating who you treat with? I wouldn't. And the company doctor obviously is going to have the employer's best interest, not the claimant. So it really, puts the claimant behind the 8 ball when the employer controls their medical treatment from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. So, Anthony, it sounds like employees should almost sense that there's some sort of prejudice, maybe right from the get-go. Panels are a proven benefit to both employees and employers. The lower costs, or they lower cost to businesses, are conducive to quick, effective recoveries and help ensure a smooth transition back to the workforce. George Beatty, what's not to like?
it's not to like at all. I mean, Tony's a great lawyer, of course, but what do you expect him to say? The insurance companies drive this process, not the employers, the insurance companies. They donate to the Republican candidates, the Republican candidates get elected, and now they propose legislation that forces an injured worker to go to an insurance company doctor. Come on, common sense. You're a doctor, and they hire you to save them money. So if you come down and say, you're better, you're fine, get back to work, it saves the insurance company money. Now, if a doctor says too often, oh, you really are injured, you better stay out of work, it's going to cost them more money. Come on, there's an inherent conflict of interest.
So, in other words, they're going to breach the Hippocratic Oath?
No, because there's a lot of gray area. That's the problem. I mean, it's not black or white. clear. You know, it's, gee, I don't think
Okay.
that's as bad as you're saying it is. It's a subjective say it'll be denied, but at the end of the day, once the case is fought through, the insurance company said that the doctors were really nice and cooperative. Did you ever see the report? Did you see what the doctor said? Because sometimes they're really nice to your face and then they write a report that undermines the claim. Apparently that happened here. It's his opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty that his work activities are causing this problem.
Right. Down to dueling docs. I mean,
Always.
It really is. But we heard Tony say earlier on that the treating physician at the get-go, the panel physician, are rarely called as experts or witnesses.
That doesn't happen that often, but that's because they're there sort of to stop this person in some way, to thwart their ability to get the proper treatment and to shut them down right off the bat.
Yep.
Right off the bat, if you starve people out, they'll work with a deformed hand if they need to work because they have to make a living, and the panel doc sends them back because that's his obligation in order to continue as a panel doc. You won't stay on long if you start sending people to doctors and keep them out of work.
Chris, can I just...
Because the medical malpractice cases usually, they're very rare, unlike what the public perception is. I mean, in the state of Pennsylvania, some of the counties outside Philadelphia, it's over 90% defense verdicts. The filings have dropped by half. There are so few medical malpractice cases now. So if a panel doctor says, I don't think you're in enough pain, I don't see objective evidence of it, and sends him back to work, it's not going to be a med mal case. And a lot of times they don't even get to see a doctor. They see some physician's
Probably not
assistant.
even a few years ago, before the terrain changed, would you see a medical malpractice case.
Even then, but since 2003, there's been a huge drop-off of med mal.
Because, Chris, typically the treatment from the panel doctor is limited, so you really don't have an issue regarding medical malpractice because the treatment is so limited. And, you know, we can say that the panel doctor has the injured worker's best interest, but they know where their bread is buttered, so they're obviously going to side with the employer and try to get the injured worker back to work as quickly as possible.
Tony, that's a strong argument.
Well, you know what? Maybe it takes 40 days less because they jam the person right back or starve them out. Maybe you should look at it the other way, because the Workers' Compensation Act is supposed to be humanitarian and remedial. It's supposed to help injured workers. It's not supposed to help the Chamber of Commerce. So I think we need to focus on the injured workers and providing for their families. And I'd like to respond to Tony. At least he said that some of the big corporations do certain things. But when we're talking about mom and pop employers, small companies, they're not the ones making these decisions. They buy insurance, and there's giant insurance company there. And this giant insurance company, they're the ones picking the doctors. They're the ones requiring people to go to panel physicians, not small employers. The big insurance companies are the ones running this process.
And Chris, for me, it's more fundamental than that. It really boils down to a matter of choice. Why should an injured worker be treated any differently than anybody else? You and I can choose who we treat with. Why can't an injured worker?
Right, but again, it comes down. It's a matter of money, because if I do get a doctor's report, it doesn't preclude me from submitting that for my workers' compensation eligibility, even in the first 90 to 100 days.
We're talking about somebody's health. I mean, money should really be secondary under those circumstances.
Statistics. Think about statistics. There's a bean counter in the giant insurance company somewhere, and he's got his statistics. Dr. A sends 79% of the people right back to work, and we save money. Dr. B over here, gee, he's been leaving people stay out of work and get some benefits. That's costing us more money. Well, when the bean counter decides who to renew the contract with, come on, Tony, I think, you know, it's human nature. If you're not helping the big company's bottom line, they're going to pick somebody that will. They get a panel doctor to say, you're not bad enough to be out, we're sending you back in within the first 21 days. They deny the claim, and then there's no what they call unreasonable contest, because as claimants lawyers, Hal and I are always looking and we're saying, did you have a basis to deny this thing in the first 21 days? And if they don't have that panel doctor, that old reliable doc that's going to send them back, then they could be hanging out there and get hit for extra. Maybe you should look at it the other way, because the Workers' Compensation Act is supposed to be humanitarian and remedial. It's supposed to help injured workers. It's not supposed to help the Chamber of Commerce. So I think we need to focus on the injured workers and